Alright, welcome back to the Supercoach Nuff channel. In this video we're going to review round 8 of the 2025 NRL Supercoach season. So another good week for us. The climb out of the hole continues with a 1373 this week, which was good enough for top 7% of the round. And did see us go up another 10,000 ranks into the top 40k. So great signs there. Also 6 from 6 league wins again is pretty nice. But if we have a look at the team, so we brought in Wade Egan this week, and that worked out really well with an 86. Obviously scoring a try helped. Did lose a little bit of value, but we're not concerned about that. We're going to keep him for the season, pending a clean run of health. Sandon Smith was amazing though. We did sort of play him thinking they might get some attack down that edge, but he was just involved in everything. So a 129, making some more cash, and probably one we can now hold through the buys. So Hooker was looking a little bit dicey there for a bit, but I think we're pretty set in that position for the time being. In the front row, absolute freaks. Payne Haas, Terrell May, a 123 and a 118 respectively. It's just set and forget with those guys, and probably should be in the captaincy conversation every week for the foreseeable future. Obviously, Haas is going to go into Origin, and based on form, you never know with Terrell May, he might be a chance. Big Tino with 69 points on the bench is good. Happy he's ticking over nicely. Corey Horsburgh with 67 was good. Mitch Barnett with 57 is just plodding along. Potentially one we could look to upgrade in the near future. And Nafahu White with just 38 this week. Thought he would get a bit more, but I guess maybe just wasn't required to do as much given how dominant the Roosters were. And then the bench, our sort of second row cash gen has probably dried up. Dylan Egan with a 30, so his break even is quite high. Thomas Kent with 31, and coming off the bench with Dylan Lucas's return, so I think he is on the chopping block this week. And Hubner should be back from his concussion this week, all going to plan, but will take a little while for his cash gen to reset and sort of push into the 400s. In the halves, so we had Jerome Hughes with the 76, which is pretty decent, losing a bit of value, but again, we're not worried about keepers losing value. We've locked them in. Nathan Cleary with 54, again, not the best performance from the Panthers last week, so not a trade, but probably not figuring in our captaincy conversations at the moment. Luke Metcalf with the 47, so sort of just averaging 50. Yep, chugging along. Can't wait to get Campbell back, but we are going to have to wait a few more weeks. And centre wing, so Farnworth with the 72, on average, which is great. Jacob Keira's 53, considering he was sitting on about 2 at half time in that absolutely terrible first half. I was going to not bring it up, but guess we got to talk about it. But one bad half out of 14 halves this year is nothing to stress about. So Jacob Keiras is fine. 49 for Mazu, obviously not the heights from last week, but we'll take it. And then Billy Smith we played just because we were sort of panicked about the fourth centre wing, and he only returned to 35. We were hoping that Sandon was going to feed him a bit. Didn't quite work out that way. We should have played Tamale, who got 76, and continues to track well. I think he's got a nice break even as well still. Yeah, -6 is that? Yeah, -6. So yeah, he is a hold for another week, although against the Storm, we're not expecting miracles. Tom Jenkins probably has done his job for us, so we'll look to move him along. And Rob Toyer, Again, not doing a great deal, but his coverage in the buys I think is going to be beneficial to the squad. Iongi we just bought in to loop our captaincy score, which was Teddy's 128 as VC. So we had Terrell May as captain, so that did work out in the end. Yeah, we wouldn't have captain Sandon Smith in 1,000 years, so we'll cop the 128 from Teddy. And Calvin Ponga with a 44, continuing to get it going there at the Knights at the moment. But in terms of the leagues, so as we said, did get the wins in all the leagues. Probably the first league was the closest with a 1357 for Steamed Hams, Mel's team. Um, so for Mel, captained Scott Drinkwater, who scored a 132. So that was a fantastic captaincy shout. I'm glad I had Tedesco in that captaincy conversation. But I guess the difference makers was just probably, more so the likes of an Egan with a 30, Fafita with a 36. Um, like 18 from Hopewadi dropped out of the team. But playing the loophole as well, obviously I didn't get the auto emergency score, which probably would have been 30. So, just having those couple of lower scores and just sort of having a higher floor in the team. It looks like Nafahu Watt, actually Billy Smith was my lowest with 35. So, that's not too bad. But across the league, I think the top score was this 1507. So no spoon this year for Gary, absolutely not. Sitting first in the table, and I think pretty high up overall as well. So great stuff there. VC Teddy, so that was an easy decision. Has Tommy Dearden, who pumped out a 143. Yeah, so that's a really nice point of difference. Fanua Blake and Hines were both solid. Had Payne Haas played Sandon Smith. Ruben Garrick with a 98 has Terrell May. So all the pieces there for a big score this week. Benched Gutho, which is interesting given the amount of money invested in him. But again, just pulled the right rein, which is what you love to see. In the second league, so a 1269 for Lockie's best games. So VC at Haas, which makes sense with his 123, and loop that in. But I think it was just the lack of tons. Obviously, having 3 tons in the unique players list as opposed to just Payne Haas being VC was probably the difference. Garrick with 98 was close, to be fair. Some solid scores as well. Nicholson, Gilbert scored well. Munster did well. So yeah, just those big hundreds got me over the line there. But I guess looking at this league, was it 1453 perhaps? Inside out, David's team. So Captain Cleary as well. So could have pushed up to the 500 with a 1500 rather with a better captain, but had Haas, Tedesco, Garrick, Smith, Terrell May. So yeah, lots of big hundreds there. Well done, David. And then the last league, so a comfortable win over Crazy Rich Asian, David's team. So another one who unfortunately captained Cleary, played Gutho and the flex, played Cant. So I guess, those sorts of picks not coming off this week. But I think the top score in this league was this monster 1555 for Steve's team, the Serena Sinners. So VC Teddy, nice. Had Drinkwater as well. Had Olakuatu ton up, Terrell May, Nico Hines. So I think what's the lowest score there? Maybe Marzu's 49, which is amazing. So well done there, Steve. Alright, so in terms of the top scoring players this week, it looked like the Cowboys-Titans game was an absolute fill-up. We saw Tommy Dearden, highest score of the round with 143. But Robert Derby, so well done if you brought him in as a cheapie. 135, jumped up 80k in cash, and nice negative break even. Don't know if I'd get on, but in saying that, there isn't a lot of options. The cupboard is pretty bare in terms of quality cheapies this week. Scotty Drinkwater, we've touched on both. Fermor with a 132 for the opposite team. Nane with a 131. So if they were running at each other, they must have just gentleman's agreement, just run through the gaps that we provide. No missed tackles and happy days. But yeah, the Roosters filling up. Jamal Fogarty was massive with a 125. Adam Reynolds, unfortunately, for me as a Bulldogs fan, with a 125, obviously two 40-20s in one game. It was ridiculously good on Thursday night. Jack Whiten was in everything for Souths on Friday night with a 123. At his price, could be a nice little, um, point of difference at 5/8, or you can obviously play him in the centre wing. Ronaldo doing his thing of getting a ton every so often. Aaron Clark with a 108. So I guess with the transfer of Dylan Walker, he's become a massive part of that middle forward rotation there at the Warriors. So well done if you're on him. Adam Pompey must have got a couple of tries with a 108. Ola Kawatu with a 106, but on the bye this week, so not a trade-in. Jackson Ford with an even 100. I think he got 2 tries from memory. So well done to the 800 people who own him. Taulagi, another Cowboy filling up. Isaac Tungo finally finding a little bit of form. I don't know if you can bring him in with confidence just yet, but now would be the time to do so, having bottomed out in price. Fainu, Tarpany have done well previously. Lockie Galvin bouncing back with an 85, so he might be firmly on the radar to come in at 5/8 for my team. Robson, another Cowboy. Willison's looked really good on the edge, should get the dual position. So if you can somehow squeeze him in your front row rotation, could be a valuable piece, particularly given Carrigan Haas will be missing with Origin. Possibly Ricky if he's back by then. Should be. He was named and was a late out. So yeah, it could be another nice point of difference through the Origin period. And a lot of the familiar names that we're used to seeing at this end of the points table. In terms of break-evens, as we said, not a lot going on this week. Robert Derby has the best break-even with a negative 46. Sam Rani, don't know if he's going to get another game anytime soon. Billy Burns scored 85 on the weekend, but not sure his runway in the team. I'll have to look into that a bit further. Tavanga backed up his nice score last week with another 63, so I guess does offer dual position flexibility at hooker. So you could rotate him with a Connor Watson, Cam McInnes, Max Plath even. So it might be something there, but on a buy this week. Bo Fermor off the back of his 132 has bottomed out his price. So could be one to look at this week against probably what's going to be a bit of a weakened Bulldogs team, given all the suspensions that come out of that game. Tommy Weaver, I guess if you're looking for a cheap halfback, you may have to play him in the flex. So, could downgrade a Nyongi, for example, and get a bit of cash out of Tommy. Whiten, as we said, probably bottomed out in price as well, but not bottom dollar by any stretch. Savala, I guess, finally got a try, so a bit of attacking stats there, and has probably sort of started to actually make some cash, negative 11 break even. Sandon Smith, I don't think's a trade in, but if you've got him, like I said, you probably hold through the Origin period now. Ray Stone started a hooker this week, so again, not bottom dollar though, so you can see there's not a lot going on at this end of the the conversation. So, in terms of my trades this week, in an ideal world, what I would have liked to have done was to go Cant out, and I'll bring in Savala, just probably the most likely to make a bit of cash, but also, we've talked about the Roosters offer that really nice coverage. Just got to be careful not to overcapitalise because they are on the buy next week, and I've already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I have 6 now if I brought him in, which is probably the limit. I'd suggest maybe even 5 is a bit safer, but I'm going for it because I want to upgrade from Jenkins, and ideally, if I go back to averages, it would have been for Dylan Lucas, but I'm 6k short. Definitely don't want to use a boost um, at the moment, and particularly not for that sort of trade. So what I'm thinking is we can go for Dylan Lucas light, and by that I mean we bring in Beau Fermor, who's got that negative break even, should make us that bit of money, and then probably come round 12 when the Titans are on the bye, we could even flip to Lucas at that point. So yeah, they played the Bulldogs, the Knights, and the Raiders in the next few, which isn't the worst draw, but we're not expecting 130 against the Dogs, despite their outs. Yeah, Knights and Raiders. So initial thoughts. These are the trades. I might have a bit more of a look into it. See if there's a better centre wing option at 600. Because what I do like is it sort of shores up this centre wing a 4 spot. So I'll just been talking for too long, the microphone cut out. So I guess it sort of gets us to a position where our starting 13, if I sort of bring Campbell in here, is super solid. We're very happy with this. And then our bench, Tino is great. So we've got some forward coverage. Obviously, half is covered. 5/8 and hooker at the moment, we're comfortable with being able to play these guys if we need to. And obviously, we've got the third sort of fullback. We would like to upgrade as well. But I guess thinking about the meta of Supercoach was something I come up with on the weekend. Not come up with, I didn't invent it or anything, but just think about the best strategy, reflecting on it after 8 weeks. I feel like with the amount of cash we seem to be able to generate these days in Supercoach, it's really about trying to build your 17 on field as quickly as you can, with the goal of if you can get it done by about now, that you can then start to look at the buys and plan your buys with, being able to rotate through some of these, keepers or, subprime keepers for a better playing option during that time. So I feel like we're just about there. As I said, I'm happy with the hookers, the forward pack. Obviously the second row cash has dried up a bit, but we could use Egan and Barnett to get to a Eli Katoa, a Hubner and a Horsburgh to get to Olakawatu, so long term we're good. The halves are okay. As I said, I'd like to upgrade Metcalf to probably the keeper 5/8 option, leaning towards Metcalf. Sorry, what's his name? He's been in the news. Galvin. There it is. Got there eventually. Probably just leaning towards Galvin now. He's back in the team and everyone's seemingly happy. Happy to play these centre wings until we can sort of churn through. Tamale's got a bit of cash, but these guys will obviously cover through the buys, and then we can, nuff them out and have a 5th centre wing to rotate through. And then, obviously Ponga's stinking it up, but we'll back him to come back. And, we can then look at a third sort of fullback keeper down the track. So, at the moment, pretty happy with where the squad is. Obviously, the ranks haven't gone to plan, but I think that's the tactic: is go fairly hard early, use 3 boosts to get to this point. So very aggressive at the start, And then, as I said, now we start to shift our focus to, okay, well, who's going to, be available round 12, round 15 in particular. Make those moves over the next few weeks. Potentially even just sit on your hands if it's only one or two. Just wait and see. Injuries and stuff will come up which affect all of it. Trade smart through the origin period rather than trade aggressively. And then these last two boosts are basically going to be at that round 18, 19 mark where we just want to build our final team and, hang on as much as we can to the finish line. Obviously, if you're playing head to head, you want to keep enough, you're not worried about the overall result. Keep enough trades in reserve that you can trade through the finals period, because you'll find a lot of the overall players will have run out of trades by then, essentially. So, depending on how you want to attack it, it's a couple of different trade strategies, but I think regardless, the plan is early doors, be fairly aggressive, and get to your solid 17. I guess it doesn't have to be your season keepers by this stage, but if you've got these sort of mid-price guys that you're comfortable with playing when you need to, like Tamale probably covers that in the centre wing. But yeah, pretty happy with the way that the squad's going. Like I said, the headphones went off before, so I've probably talked for too long. But just quickly, in terms of Magic Round this weekend, I guess, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Teddy as VC Friday night against the Dolphins. Into, he plays on Sunday, so probably a big pain Haas at home, looking for a big one against Penrith. If they played a bit earlier, target the Titans. They're not doing well defensively, so, Kiraz, if you're super brave. Obviously, if Burton wasn't going to be suspended, he would have been a great 5/8 to grab this week. I guess if you're looking for a bit of a pod, Bronson Cherry would be high on the list. I don't know his price. I think he's a bit high now that he has played a couple of games, but Bailey Haywood, if you want to sort of, sideways a mid-pricer, that'd be my tip. The Bulldogs who bounce back in a big way this week. But we'll wrap the video up there. So as always, any questions, comments, thoughts, feel free to add them below this video. Give us a like if you enjoy the Supercoach content. Subscribe for all the fantasy sports content on the channel. And other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.